Yeah. Welcome everyone. This is You Be the Judge every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We're here from 6 to 7 p.m. And I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm Dr. Paul Dyer, and we have our other two lovely co-hosts, Marylin Pierre and Judge Claudia Barber. We do know that Marylin Pierre is on a location right now. She's listening in. She's doing the best she can, but she's going to be pretty busy. So welcome to You Be the Judge. Until my other co-host, Judge Claudia Barber, comes sooner than later. I do want to talk about how you can always get the show and always contact the show. You can always contact me at drpaulwdyer@gmail.com, or you can always go into the link wherever you see the social media, all the social medias, and you can always hear this on Apple Podcasts, iHeart, iTunes, and all your podcast channels. For the last week, we were talking about solutions. And we a lot of our conversations, we always talk about things that's going on. And often, very often, we get so wrapped up in so many things that's going on, we very rarely, if often, talk about just solutions. And just before everyone came on, just everybody was watching and listening, is that we had a sharing before the live kicked on. And one of our participants who joins the show, an evangelist minor, was sharing with us. And here's the thing. Well, I'm not going to talk about what Ms. Minor talk about, not specifically, but I want to talk about sharing. Sharing is so important. And one of our other colleagues, people in the room, had said, if you're going to share, share with people who care. Because not only can we touch you with our hearts, our minds, our voices, and our powers and our prayers, but we are very compassionate people logistically as humans. We are. We just have to start learning how to show compassion. And the only way to show compassion is to be compassionate. You cannot just be compassion and have compassion without showing compassion. You can't just say you are and not show it. That doesn't mean you are. You may be kind, you may be a good person, but to be compassionate, you must show. Now, one of our other persons has said, and Joni, if you don't mind me saying your names, he says, when you are a strong person, it is okay for you to express yourself and for you to release all those emotions, because to hold them in only makes you weak, and to keep them bottled in only destroys you, but to share and makes you stronger. We have to understand that in these times, no matter what times that you are grieving in, have grieved in, we're all grieving in some form of way, because grieving doesn't always just mean death. It means change of life. There's tons of ways that people have been grieving and they did not know it. The one thing I was teaching grief counseling before is that it's about expression. And a lot of the words we use, hear, and see, we've never been taught as human beings how to grieve. So I'm going to give you one of these solutions this week, because we're going to go 2 straight weeks with solution-based information. Learn how to grieve. And the first way of grieving is to express yourself. If you don't know how to express yourself, that's probably one of those things you don't need to be told how to. Just be vulnerable enough to just release it. Now, I think some people feel that they're often felt like they're weak, or they felt like they're afraid, or they felt like they're sad. Hey, Judge Claudia Barber. You finally getting your camera. But so grieving is so important to release a lot of that. It doesn't mean your mourning becomes less. It doesn't mean your mourning gets, you're not going to mourn anymore, but learning how to express yourself in the grieving process you have is so vitally important. We are living in a time where if you hold it in, it becomes detrimental to our own personal health, family health, mental health, spiritual health, and then just physical health. We don't need to hold those type of emotions in, because even if we eat and eating good foods, the nutrients do not allow the body to soak up the nutrients if you're still grieving. Even if you eat good foods, I'm talking great foods, organic, straight from the farm, your body would not absorb the nutrients because of your grieving process, because of the lack of expression, because of holding in fear and mourning. So one of my solution base this week is to learn to express yourself and be okay with it. This is not about holding something in and wondering if it's going to offend someone or if it's going to hurt someone, because these are your words and these are ways you can express. I hope that helps. So welcome to You Be the Judge. If anyone has any other thing they would like to say this week, because this is solution-based week this week, and in solutions, we either have situations and then we have solutions. We have moments and then we have some answers. You know, Miss Miner had talked about she was contacting someone to help her son to get into rehab, and why did it take so long? Well, I tell you, I have stories that are similar to Miss Miner, to friends and family that we tried to get into rehab or to a situation, and because they were not this or that, it always had seemed like it had to come out of pocket. The sad issue is I think this is more to do with money than it does do with anything else. Sometimes there's not enough placements in certain communities, certain establishments, so there's a waiting list. I know that was for situations that I have been personally involved in. There's a waiting list. But it depends on circumstances. If it was a criminal, then they go right in. But if it's involuntary, if it's voluntary, it seems like there's more of a waiting list. It seems like you can get help faster if you commit a crime than you do if you just want to walk in and say, I need help. It seems sad that way. Judge Barber, do you have any of the legal issues to why that is or isn't in certain social situations or social services situations?
I actually think that it also has something to do with resources and time.
Yeah.
For example, they would put at the priority list people who are involved with criminal activity as opposed to people who are not. So if there are only so many beds available, if there are only so many counselors available, then and the waiting list is 100 and you can only do so many at one time, that may very well end up being a reason why there's not enough money into paying for the resources that are needed and adding the staff that's available.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, like I said, I mean, you gave the long answer. My short answer was money, but money is resources. Resources cost money. And, you know, people who I know work in social services and things like that, there's a lot of work going into here. They don't have enough. You know, I don't know when there was a time when I met two people that said, yeah, we got tons of them. One's a nurse. I've never heard a nurse say, oh, yeah, we got so many nurses, we don't know what to do with them. I haven't never heard that from a nurse, and I've never heard that from a social service person. I've never heard saying, oh, yeah, we are so far ahead that we don't have nothing to do. I've never heard that from a social service person. So
Right.
I think that's the sad issue of the fact. And then so, you know, yeah, it's resources.
Yes. Have you, I gather, heard some of the rumblings about people re-examining the Espionage Act?
Yes.
I
So
see.
why? So you have two, right? So here's the thing: why have there been rumblings? Have people do people know what the Espionage Act even encompasses at all? Any of us?
In a
Anyone?
vague way and in a very general way, they may. But my concern is timeliness of this.
Correct.
And I'm also appalled at all of the responses to the FBI search warrant of Mar-a-Lago, because I just find that it's just another segment of the population that's really gone overboard. But to the extent that they want to have discussions, see, there's always this intention to rationalize away a crime when certain people commit the crime, when popular people commit the crime.
Only popular certain people. It has
only popular certain people.
That's it. So it's not like it's always people. It's only certain popular people.
That now the Espionage Act is being re-examined. Really?
Right.
Well, for what?
Right.
Well, it's been there for years. What's the point in having it re-examined now? So I don't get that. And then, the whole role of the FBI as though they're doing something wrong. If the law was there and the statute was put on the books, I don't get I read an editorial this week in which someone was suggesting, well, number one, they laid out the fact that prosecutors really don't prosecute every crime.
Correct.
Well, we need to stop right there.
Yep.
If you don't prosecute every single crime on the book, then it's clear to me that this stuff is discretionary.
Right. And who is doing the puppeteering of picking which ones they prosecute and which ones they don't? I mean, if you're going to say it's discretionary, because because they did say this on all the news media outlet, all of them, whether you think it's this one on the left or this one on the right, they all said it. So this has nothing to do with left and right. They all said it. If you're going to pick and choose, what are you going to prosecute? Then who is deciding? That's all we want to know.
Right.
I'm curious because it's not the DOJ.
No, but the fact that it's such a discretionary situation, that this also is an important principle when it comes to prosecuting hate crimes. Somebody's going to decide, well, that's not a hate crime. Putting up an effigy on a piece of property, that looks like a noose.
It's vandalism, but it's not a hate crime.
Oh, it's just not a hate crime. Oh, it's not. It's not. So this is like different strokes for different folks, and it's appalling that you have these disparities here. Even when it comes to sentencing, another news story that triggered this week was this scandal over cash for kids, judges, kids for cash or something judges, kids for cash judges,
right?
Where these two judges were involved in a scheme to rake in all this money as long as they sentenced children to a for-profit prison.
Correct.
Okay. And not only that, the one of the judges right now is not even really serving an in-prison sentence. They're on home confinement because of COVID. Well, let them all out on home confinement because of COVID if it's that serious of I don't get this at all. I mean, what right does he have, after, bilking taxpayers and all this public mistrust, and somehow he gets so qualified to be on house arrest, for as part of a 6-year sentence, by the way. So no, I don't get this at all. This just is awful in so many ways.
If it comes down to when we use words like discretionary, and then we were talking about services, and it comes down to what was it? We didn't use the word money, but we use what was the word we used? Just use Judge Barber. It wasn't money, but we know it had something to do with, like, it's not enough money. Resources. Yes, that's resources is literally a key word for money, and people money. Because if you have the people and you can't pay them, they really kind of go. It's places, people, money. Those are resources, right?
Right.
So if we have discretionary resources, who's making these calls if the people that need it and deserve the information or the outcome? Because we're the only ones seeking. Because if you split the population, and I don't hate to do it, there are people who have, and they don't need our resources, because you can always find someone, if you could pay for it, to get what you need. That's just if you doesn't
You
matter.
mean like under the table, pay them off?
Under the table, on top of the table,
Over top of the table?
yeah,
Get them off.
If I had a person that I didn't want to be prosecuted, I could just pay enough. If I had a person that I needed rehab, I can get them into a clinic. There's tons of places I can put my child if I have that disposable income.
Access.
Right.
If you have access to
Right.
resources.
I mean, it just doesn't, there is, so what? So the people we're really talking about that need help are the 60% in the middle?
Maybe the 60% in the middle. But, I still, raise the alarm over injustice and the fact that, there's even just a discussion of not taking the Espionage Act seriously.
Just
a
Barber, the
discussion.
FBI has been threatened by several groups.
Exactly.
Threatened.
Yes.
Like, not like saying, oh, you guys suck. We're like, no, we're coming after you, threatened. And there's nothing being done to them.
Well, in Phoenix, Arizona, there were people that were at FBI buildings with guns.
Right.
Now, to me, that's too far. That's way over the top. That is not acceptable on so many levels, because, there's no stopping of this, and there should be a stopping of this. You come armed to an FBI building with arms, that should be subject to immediate arrest.
Well, you didn't get immediate arrest when you were at the Capitol building. So everything else is up for game.
They're proving this. There were no immediate arrests, and that was another disgraceful expose of how irregular our law enforcement system enforces laws. And that's that's kind of the bare minimum way I can, or the naked way I can explain.
I feel bad
the insurrection.
I feel bad for law enforcement people who are in, I know people who are in the job or on the job, and they're saddened by the things that are going on, and now they're being and how they're being attacked. Because again, we've said this before, there are some good people out there doing an amazing job, and they are still being attacked by the masses because it's about the legal system. It's about the justice system, and they're part of it, and it's not good.
Well, see, you have to blame all of the system for that.
Correct.
And, I can't say that I understand what you're saying, because yes, I agree, there are some very good people in law enforcement. And the fact of the matter is that we need them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also some bad folks.
Nasty.
For example, another news story that came out is Mississippi police terrorized a small town. See, now this is another example of how the system hasn't changed. And it says police have terrorized Black residents in a small Mississippi town by subjecting them to false arrests, excessive force, and intimidation, according to a federal lawsuit filed Tuesday by a civil rights organization. The organization is called Julian, is seeking a temporary restraining order against the Lexington Police Department to demand protection for the town's largely Black population. See, the problem is that people think that because of George Floyd's death, things have changed.
No,
Doesn't sound like it here.
no.
Doesn't sound like it at all.
And Marilyn had put something, and I know like she's listening, and I know she's at an event. Thank you, Marilyn. She's like, so how do we solve the problem? But if you talk about this Mississippi issue, they're trying to solve this problem. But here's the thing. They're looking for protection against the police for a community. Now, I don't know how that's solvable. I literally do not, unless you have your own, this is scary, police force for your own community to say you can't come through here because we don't trust you. I don't know. I don't even know if that's feasible.
Well, then, there's the scenario of a police department that was dismantled for making a racial slur. See, if there were massive changes in where we could be almost to where we want to be, we shouldn't be hearing stories
like this
of police brutality. There should have never been a Jalen Walker incident if there was substantial change in police departments. And you wouldn't hear all these people still being killed.
Holly,
Dante Wright, all of that.
Holly, you had something you wanted to say, I believe. Make sure you take yourself off mute. I know we've been doing this for like 10 years now.
This is funny because something happened. I was thinking of the years. It's got to be 60 years ago. My father came home and he was horrified. He didn't pay a parking ticket. And he went away. He just forgot it. He put it in his pocket. The police came. This is Oklahoma City. I don't know if this is indicative or not, but he was horrified that the police came and took him away in a police car over a parking ticket.
Wow.
And but I think what I was thinking of pointing out is, to whom do we calmly address these wrongs like that? I mean, let me just go say one thing, because I can't ask my father what he did, and I know he did something. He was also a state legislator, so it really bothered him more than normal. And the other thing was, he thought, what would it be like for someone to have the police come in front of their children and be carted away on a friggin' parking ticket, no less, that they didn't have. Anyway, I'm just saying, the fundamental question I have is, to whom do you go to change the wrong? I'm still recovering from your saying last week that the police, when they pull a gun, are expected to kill the person. Who among us would know that? I'd like to see that change.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
So going back to your father and the parking ticket, I think there's more to do with the parking ticket, not just the parking ticket, but they want to bring your father in and show some force. Because it's a parking ticket. Why send police officers to go pick up someone for a parking ticket?
They have nothing else to do. They have nothing else to do.
Really? You mean you have a sheriff? He's got his feet up at the desk. He's going, you go get that son of a, and really a parking ticket?
Clearly, if you are choosing such a low level offense as a parking ticket violation, I don't care if it is Oklahoma. That's clear to me that your resources are just being used for the wrong reason.
Probably so. Yeah.
And I think that's where we go about how do we help fix things or solve things, is we don't know how our resources, back to money, is being used.
Yeah, and that's where I think the solution there is to pay more attention how your tax dollars are being spent, even in the police force, because the police force is a public safety mechanism for municipalities, but it also is naturally is taxpayer funded. But we do care if you took the majority of tax dollars and purchased AR-15s, as opposed to, maybe more greater training in de-escalation. as a option to having such a brutal armed ready team ready to just take down people right and left. And the problem again is the discretionary end of things. Are you going to take your AR-15 and shoot down the people that are at these FBI buildings with their AR-15s and their resources to retaliate for former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home being raided? I mean, is it? Are you going to use it for that reason?
So Judge Barber, do you, outside of who the home was, what do you think of the raid in itself?
I think that the Department of Justice was doing their jobs. I do. I just really do. I think that and they know exactly whose home they were raiding. They also know, for example, they've analyzed this piece by piece and even to the point where they have discussed the possible defenses that the other side would raise to the warrant.
So why weren't they so forthcoming about the reason why they were going in? They seemed so.
First of all, this stuff was supposed to be sealed, quiet. Nobody's supposed to release it.
Really? Sealed?
Really, the only major release of information that I recall was the fact that the former president let on that his house was being raided. Mm-hmm. And so then all of a sudden things started snowballing from there, that that this was by the FBI, because a lot of people, even I remember Senator Schumer was being interviewed on PBS, and he said, I know no more than you know. And, I'm the majority leader here in the Senate. I don't know any more than what I've seen in the press accounts myself. Mm-hmm. And so he refused to talk about it because he knows nothing. So he didn't know. And even the president said that he wasn't, fully aware of what was going on at as a result of that search, because grand jury type of investigations are supposed to be quiet and not publicly. It's not supposed to be public access to all pieces of information.
So let's go backwards a little bit. I don't think, I personally don't think he's ever going to get arrested. He's ever going to jail. I don't think he'll spend one day in jail. But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get him a legal way where he's unable to run in 2024. Do you think that's what they're setting this up to be?
I be heard.
Yes, go ahead, William.
Thank you. Okay. It seems to me very simple. There is a statute which says that that when a president a president leaves office, he's got to turn over all the state papers, right, to historians, government historians. He did not turn over the papers, some of which, as it happens, were classified, highly classified. The feds, various federal agencies tried to get the papers. He wouldn't give them the papers, and the FBI went in and took the papers. What's the big deal?
That's exactly right.
That's exactly, yeah.
And I would like to ask, why did he have the papers in the beginning, and he's entertaining Saudi officials and everybody else at Mar-a-Lago? My question is, why did he have them there?
Well, that's why, Dr. Dyer, your question was a good question. But like I said, from my perspective, I don't think the sole issue or even a lot of this surrounds about, I'm going to make sure he doesn't run again. I don't think that's it, because the bottom line is that the government went down to Mar-a-Lago without a search warrant and asked for the documents before,
right,
and they all were not released.
So
Period.
here's
So this is not something, you know, the FBI made up or manufactured to go down there by themselves. He was asked to release those documents before. And there, as one person mentioned, one of his advisors mentioned, there is a proper way to declassify a document.
correct.
And if he did not do that, then he already knows he's in the wrong. He knows he's in the wrong.
But okay, so here's the thing. We know it's who you surround yourself with, right? There are people, we know he didn't box up stuff. He was not packing up stuff like he's in a 2-bedroom apartment talking about, I need help this weekend, I gotta move, right? He said, pack all, he may have said, I want it all and take it to my house. He may have said that, right?
And his advisors said,
You can't
you
do
can't
that.
do that.
But here's the thing. There is a person putting stuff in a box. It could have been a Sally. It could have been a Bob. And you're telling me the Sally and the Bobs were like, I know this is illegal, but I love him so much. I'm just going to do what he tells me to do. I need to talk to those people. Because
it's not like the FBI is not talking to those people, because that's in the affidavit that they don't want to release because it will tell a lot about who supplied that information.
Well, even the lawyer, his lawyer down there, I'm raising my eyebrow at some of her signing an affidavit saying that all the classified documents were released and there are no more. Really, if you didn't know that, why sign the affidavit? That's crazy. So, I mean, you know, she's leaving herself up to a lot of exposure there.
That's what I'm trying to say. I think, Teresa, I think there's a lot of people between one and unknown of number who put their lives on the line to do so much wrong knowingly. He's got a magic. They need to bottle up, because
for sure. He is, and pass it on to everybody in the that's a citizen of the United States.
He's like the new presidential Tony Robbins, because he can get anyone to do anything. It just seems so
and not get arrested for it,
and not
go to jail for it, and not get arrested for it. Really,
this is the reckoning. This is the reckoning time. To me, just like I said, this is an Abraham Lincoln moment. They had the same thing going on back then when the Civil War started. To me, this is what's going on right now. And I think the fact that they raided Mar-a-Lago is the beginning of that. Not only that, I don't think that the FBI, do you think the FBI is just standing there while these little shoddy people send wolf tickets at them? I don't think so, because the power is on the FBI side for real. It's not
That's
on
right.
their
That's
side.
right. It is.
You know, so I'm just watching.
Teresa,
all I can do.
I love my history, and your reference to the beginning of the Civil War. I want to see how you're going to bridge this. That was amazing of how you really tactfully added this new beginning, because I've always said that we are in our new Reconstruction.
Yes.
And so I'm curious of how you did that with the new, because before the Civil War, you tell me how you bridged that one, because I'm curious.
What do you mean by how I bridged that? Because I'm just saying that at some point it became where the states that seceded from the Union, because of why they did it, and Lincoln had to decide how he was going to deal with that, or his advisors or whoever he had around him had to decide how they're going to do that, because they have brothers on both sides, just as what is happening today. They have people on both sides, and they're all with the our white brethren and sisters in the room. That is what is going on now. There is a power struggle going on. And just like I've always said, that Trump is the second president of the Confederacy, just like Jefferson Davis was the first. And these people who want that white supremacy, that want things to be back the way they are lining themselves behind Trump. Those people that want a progressive kind of America that includes everybody else, they're on the other side. So at this point, where we're saying that Trump is so untouchable because he has those people who have the sentiment of the good old days. And now they have to decide how they're going to deal with this situation that we're in. To me, this is the way I am interpreting what I'm
Teresa,
seeing.
you're brilliant. You're flat
She
out
is.
brilliant. I love history. You got to remember when Jefferson Davis said what he says, he said, prior to the Civil War, Jefferson said that we're going to have to fight this out. He had told the South that. They didn't want to believe. They said, there's no way the North can fight against us gentlemen, because the South was considered to be more honorable. They remember the South wasn't just fighting for an idea, they were fighting for a way of life. There's a difference. There's not just this is right, this is wrong. This is how we live, and that's it. This is not.
Look at what happened in Wyoming yesterday. Weren't they fighting against?
Yes.
This is how we want to live.
Right.
We don't like Liz Cheney.
Right.
We don't like what she stands for.
And she's gonna lose.
You know, and we like Donald Trump and everything he stands for, and we want it all: the white supremacy, the white superiority, all of it. They want it all, but you know, they're rejecting common sense. Somebody that's standing up for the rule of law of all things, you know, and someone who doesn't want to tear down democracy,
Right.
and you know, the people that are trying to put out a false narrative about the election fraud. Now, what happened to the election fraud story when Liz Cheney won? Well, you know, why isn't everybody examining the elections, you know, of Wyoming to see if you know, there's election fraud? She didn't even do that. You know, she just conceded the election.
Yeah.
But no, this is something that people, you know, because at the end of the day, people make an active choice to go down to the FBI and stage a protest with or without rifles. That's an act on their own. And they don't have to bring their guns.
No.
But see, they did in Ohio, they did. Man was shot, and one man was shot dead. And they don't have to bring their guns to Phoenix, but they did, to the Phoenix FBI, but they did. So this is a choice thing too.
Yeah.
I think they need to
Definitely.
exhume the grave of Ivana Trump. I believe Trump wanted her grave on his golf course so he could hide documents in that grave. And I believe that he's already sold some of the stuff, some of the information to the Russians, or it was an exchange for them forgiving his debts.
I think it's an
that he
exchange.
had.
So it's still a payment. I think
Right.
Okay, so stop right there. See, that's why you have the Espionage Act. That's why you have it. So things like this don't happen. But see, then at the same time, then America, if they're on the right track, they should not be sitting up here defending that. You know, the possession of those top secret documents as though that's nothing, and he's being framed and all this kind of nonsense.
Is America trying to defend its sense of liberty?
No,
No,
not when it
absolutely
comes
not.
to these acts.
No, they're defending their sense of, like you said, superiority, that white people have to be in charge. White people have to be the majority. And so they don't care about anything else. They're literally willing to burn the country down, not realizing, hey, all these things you want are going to burn with it. Wake
Exactly.
up. You're not going to have a country to have your superiority. And the poor people that are going and doing the shooting and breaking into the Capitol certainly are not going to have anything. So you're fighting for something that doesn't really exist, and two, that will not exist. And they think their money's going to insulate them. The whole country will burn down and they'll have nothing.
They'll have nothing. Exactly. It's just like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, it's either nonviolence or non-existence.
Yeah.
Well, we tried the nonviolence, so now
Yeah,
it's
we
heading
did. We
towards,
did.
now we're heading towards non-existence. I mean, Beirut went through the certain thing. The Ahmadine went through the certain things in the Middle East. I mean, when one side is not what you want it to be, then tear it apart, because then no one can have anything. And other countries have gone through the same thing. I know my foot was been in those countries, why they're going through this thing, and we're trying to just find and navigate our way through it. And a lot of times when I hear and talk to the people, they're like, do you know what they did? And then they say, do you know what they're trying to do? So they're literally fighting at each other as opposition of ideas. And we're now, we have gotten out of politics. We are fighting over, back to the Civil War, back to Teresa, we're fighting over a way of life, over an idea. It is not politics anymore. It's a way of life or an idea. Politics used to be something of, poli-sci, the study of political science and how we can live together. I think we're out of that. We're not even trying to live together anymore. We're just trying to.
Some of this is also the blame by the Supreme Court decisions, and Trump's choices and appointments to that Supreme Court has garnered this nation with decisions that they have to live with for the time being.
But that's isn't that on the judges? That's the Supreme Court. They're doing this.
Part of it, yes. The Second Amendment. Are you kidding? Allowing people to bear arms in the way, in the loose way that they decided that they could. I don't see that as a solution at all. I just don't. It's just moving us in the direction that everybody can bear arms and everybody should have an arm, because you could be shot dead.
But aren't people affected by all the murders, all the children who've been killed? That's what I don't get. How could they take that position when what?
What do you mean, Holly? You mean about bearing arms?
Oh, that the preeminence. I mean, just the point that we've got to be able to bear arms. But what about the killing of innocent people?
Holly, I'm a bear arms person. I'm a guy that I have, trust me and believe, I am more for the Second Amendment, bearing arms and all that. And I've never shot a kid.
I know, but what I'm saying is there are sure a lot of wacko people who are shooting people.
Yeah, but that's where you get into how do you split the difference between who and who cannot. We have what you call background checks. Okay.
We still do.
we do.
What background would that be?
There's an FBI background check, but now when you come to the FBI, who gets to choose who does and who doesn't?
I think there's a lot of things up in the air about that, and to the extent that anybody can bear arms, that's not a solution. That to me, that's just not a solution.
Well, we certainly don't need AR-47s or whatever they're called. We don't need assault rifles that can shred people's bodies within seconds. That is not necessary. Maybe, everyone should have the right to bear a regular gun, but rifles that are meant for war should not be available to anyone, period.
And we all know that we all know right now that the sales of those guns has skyrocketed.
I know.
I mean, skyrocketed.
I know. And that's what's crazy. Those are not necessary. You can't hunt with them. The only thing you do is hunt people and see how many people you can kill within a certain amount of time. There's really no purpose for those weapons at all, except greed of the people that are selling them. And the idea that, again, white supremacists are going to use these to keep their power, to keep themselves in control. Like Trump said, when those guys were in the trees and all over the place in DC with the weapons, well, they're not coming after me. So I don't care who they shoot today, but I know they're not going to shoot me. So somehow they think that they're going to dodge all these bullets, that it's only going to go to people they don't like. And that's what's crazy. A house divided against itself can't stand. You're dividing the house and it's going to fall.
So let me ask you this question. Even if you were able to legislate the guns out of people's hands, then the only people that would have the guns are the illegal guns. Is that correct?
The legal ones, yeah.
Illegal.
No, I think AR-47 should be illegal.
Yeah, but
The other pistols, rifles, whatever, can be legal.
But even if you take them out of legal hands, the only people that would have them are the illegal ones.
But if
because it's illegal possession.
Yeah,
at that point after you ban.
What I'm saying is that you're not allowed to have drugs, but they're drug dealers. You know, drugs are illegal. Heroin is illegal, but yet I can literally drive probably 5 minutes from here and get heroin. So who are you stopping from not having heroin? And it's like the same people. Who are you stopping from not having the guns?
Well, it could stop
May I
the
be
people
heard?
who are making them available, not the ones who are buying them so much. The ones who are selling them should be dealt with, not so much the regular everyday person.
I go ahead, William.
May I be heard?
Go ahead, William.
I disagree with the argument that only the bad guys will, only of the illegals will have guns if you ban guns, because gradually over the course of time, the guns will disappear. It won't be overnight, but the number of people who illegally have guns will decrease and decrease and decrease. Sometimes legislation accomplishes what it intends to the result that it intends to produce, and the result that that anti AK-47 legislation will produce is that people will gradually have less and less of them.
I see what you're saying, William. I get what you're. So in your term, we just have to be patient because it's going to eventually wean its way out.
Yeah.
But so if I understand this, if you put a law on the books, if the state passes in the legislature, no assault rifles,
Right.
ban on assault rifles, just because the law exists, eventually they will disappear?
Eventually.
Well, if you put a heavy tax on them, gradually they will disappear. A heavy annual tax.
But I would
But
just.
they're still existing
But they're
in
still
that
existing.
situation.
And that's what I was trying to say. They will still exist illegally, and people who want them would just get them illegally.
Yeah, and that's why the law is for the lawless. But the thing about this Second Amendment issue is the fact that probably the people that already have the guns, they are the ones that still have that what they quote unquote power and authority, because they're still in possession of them. And if they wanted to blow somebody's head off that they didn't like, they could. I mean, that's just kind of where we are.
That's just something you can't legislate morality. You can't. I mean, David Hume says no matter what we do as human beings, we will always find the worst to do to each other. I mean, the thing about that is we as humans got to be better at being human, and we're not. And I know a lot of us work tirelessly on trying to build a better community to be a better community. But there are some humans out there, they just don't care about being human, and they don't care about people. And it has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with religion. These are just human beings just being the nastiest they can possibly be. I'll give you a perfect example. Today at the store, I was getting ready to go buy some fish. I'm standing there at the fish counter. A person comes up and starts spouting at the butcher about what he wants. The butcher says, "Excuse me, sir, but this gentleman was here before you." He goes, "I did not see you." And I was like, no, you go ahead. Because in my head, I'm thinking, Of course you didn't see me. You didn't see me because you were going after what you wanted over what was the visual of what we could have wanted. I was there. Maybe I
But
did.
he also didn't want to see the other person too.
Exactly.
Probably.
So it kind of goes back to what you were saying. Some of these people making choices, and he chose not to see me. I get it. He goes, oh no, I apologize. And I said, I don't want you to apologize for not seeing me. That's what I said.
Mm.
He goes, no, go ahead. I said, no, because I want him to think about, he literally did not see me. That's something that he has to register with. So you go ahead and order. I really want you to soak this all in. Order first. Get your meat first. Do what you can, because I hope you get back in your car and go, why didn't I see that guy?
Well, some people, they don't think necessarily that way, and they could have just moved on about their business and not even care that you were there.
So now you put a
yeah.
gun in that person's hand for whatever reason, and he would use it with a purpose that's going to harm more people because he's not going to see other people. So it's the small things about being human. When we talk about solutions, do the small things to be human to each other, see each other, understand each other, hear each other. That's the only way you can now understand, because when people do certain things, the small things, not holding a door open, cutting in front of you, those are the same people. If they had the opportunity and the emotional fortitude and the gun in their hand, they would shoot you.
Mm.
That's it. Because a
Wow.
person, Holly, you could have a bazooka in your house. It doesn't make you any less of a Holly, because you wouldn't use it unless you really needed to for a purpose you knew you were going to use it for, to get exactly what you out of it. It's not just for you to go waving it around and to threaten people. That's not who you are. So
yeah, but that's who a lot of people are who buy the AR-15s. They buy them with the intent to threaten and to show power.
I threaten no one.
Yeah, you may not threaten anybody, but there are people that took these AR-15s down to the FBI buildings with a threat.
Yes.
Okay, so why do you have an AR-47 then?
That's exactly right.
Why do you need it?
To show power and authority, in my opinion, and because you want one.
Yeah.
Because you literally want one.
Yeah, that was it. And now there's two sides to it. I got it before because I wanted one. Now I'm glad I have it because those days are coming where I can help and serve and save. So now I'm glad I have a frying pan so I can cook up some chicken.
Okay. But this is a more serious argument. An AR-15 is a more serious piece of equipment.
Okay.
Than a frying pan.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Will.
Does anyone know the answer to this question? You see pictures of the police wearing padded armor, padded vests, which supposedly will stop bullets. Will they stop bullets from an AR-15?
Yes, even the vest I have now will stop an AR-15 bullet. Yes.
Wow.
But that's not what happened in Buffalo. We have to be mindful of that. That is not what happened in Buffalo, because they had a security guard at that food store, and the person that was the assailant shot and killed the security guard because his weapon could not match that AR-15 that
Correct.
the assailant had.
So here's a question. Here's a better answer. Not all vests stop all rounds. So you have to have what you call a certain caliber of vest to stop a certain caliber of bullet. So there's grades of vests. The top tier vest, you're not getting through them. You're just not.
Well, why were the people, the police officers in Uvalde, Texas, standing there saying they were waiting on a shield to shield them when they all had armor? Well, most of them had armor on. So what was the problem?
Because not all their armor probably will stop certain rounds. So the shield they were waiting on was a ballistic shield that stops everything, except the bazooka that Holly has in her house.
Okay.
But let me just respond by, I would be terrified to have something that could be used so easily misused.
Right.
Right. Exactly right.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's the fear.
Yeah,
Is
it
that
is.
people will easily misuse the rifle, the whatever they have.
Right. There couldn't be a benefit that would outweigh that risk, in my opinion.
Teresa, you had a question.
Yeah, yes, I did. Because we're talking about a part of the Bill of Rights. When they were ratifying the Constitution, then the people wanted some safeguards against the government. And so one of those was the right to bear arms. Now we fast forward to today, we're talking about, well, the government has this caliber of weapon. And so the citizen is saying, I need to match that caliber of weapon in order to stand toe to toe with the government. And that's what I'm seeing. Now it gets in the wrong hands, but that is what is happening. And that's why you see an escalation of the caliber of weapon that the average citizen has.
Correct.
But
You're brilliant.
I think that she is brilliant. So one of the things is that there was a Supreme Court justice, and I believe it was Berger. He is the one that wrote in an opinion, and hopefully I can research this and bring it to your attention next week, where he did write that the Second Amendment was not intended for people willy-nilly to bear arms all over. And I really want to make sure I bring that opinion and that statement that he made to the forefront, so people with clarity can see that the court has, not taken literally the words of the Second Amendment. Everybody has the right to bear arms. I mean, literally everybody, because it doesn't work that way.
May I add something? When the Second Amendment was passed, a rifle was something, it took you a minute to load. And I think there were over and under pistols, but no revolvers. Since then, we have the rifles that soldiers use, semi-automatic rifles, automatic rifles, the handguns which hold 10 shots. We also have other forms of arms. We have bazookas, and at the extreme we have nuclear weapons. We have all of these forms of arms, and the current position of the Supreme Court is that some of them can be banned. We can ban automatic rifles. We can prevent people from building nuclear weapons, but certain other arms cannot be banned. Apparently a semi-automatic rifle cannot be banned. A pistol which holds 10 bullets cannot be banned. And how the Supreme Court reached this decision that some of these things that happened since 1790, some of these things can be banned, but some of them can't. How the Supreme Court reached that position is a mystery to me.
It's discretionary. Me and Judge Barber talked about this. When people start using their own discretions, and we need to understand, like, how did you come up with this discretion? Like, how did you decide this to that? How do you pick to choose who and who not? And before we take off, I know people, good people, who can get their hands on C4. Now, when you want to talk about things like, why would you want that? I look at C4 like, who needs C4? I mean, it's an explosive that is so volatile that is so compactful that can destroy so much, and they can literally get it within a week. Just common people I know. And I'm like, here's the thing. We have so many avenues of people getting things that are either good or bad or horrible. And you can only get them probably from someone in the government. I'm telling you this now. So the government knows who they're selling certain things to and how come. I can't go to the 7-Eleven and get C4. I can't go to the 7-Eleven to get my ammunition. So there is amount of ammunition that is being sold to certain people, and they have our names and numbers if they wanted it. So these aren't secrets. So it's not like they're not allowing it to happen. They're saying it's okay. Now, they may not say it's okay, because I always say people down here in Baltimore, before we take off, all these kids are shooting in Baltimore City, all these young guys, where are they getting the bullets? You can get the guns. Where are you getting the bullets? Bullets are expensive. Gunpowder is expensive. You just don't walk up to the store and get bullets. Where are they getting the bullets?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Sheila.
This is Sheila. What responsibility do the manufacturers have in all of this?
Zero.
Okay, and why not?
Because they're like saying, I'm just making it. Whether people buy it or not, it's probably not up to me. Because I've read different arguments of people who the manufacturer, because people manipulate the original of the source, right? So you get a gun and it's manufactured a certain way, but they use what you call modifications that someone's able to add to the gun that has nothing to do with the manufacturer. That's just me and my ingenuity. So it's less on the manufacturer. But now, why did Paul made a modification just to see if he could? Now that he can, now people want to buy it. Now they're being sold. That's people's ingenuity. It's almost like you're trying to stop people from like developing the new pencil.
Okay.
I love you all. Thank you for listening to You Be the Judge. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We'll have more conversation about this, because I think it's more about, can we be better humans? I really think that's where we have to work better at, because it's hard to stop bad people from doing bad things, but we can have good people to do more things. And as long as we have good people doing more things, it'll be less bad people. I think Will's right. I think there'll just be less bad people being out there if we can just get more people to do better things or outwardly things. It's just my opinions, my thoughts. If anyone has any questions or comments, please contact the show, contact me. And I want everyone to please be safe and be kind, be compassionate out there, because that's the way we can be a better country, better people, better community, and a better nation. Thank you. Everyone have a blessed evening.
Yeah, you have a blessed one too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good talk.